Hello and welcome to the Kidney Ally Nutrition Podcast, the one and only podcast where we tackle the hardest questions around what constitutes a good, healthy kidney diet. Whether you're a patient, a carer, a nephrologist, or a dietitian, I'm sure you'll learn something new today about what constitutes a good, healthy kidney diet. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Kidney Nutrition Podcast with Ruth and Carl, founders of Kidney Ally. And I'm Carl, kidney transplant patient and co-host.
And I'm Ruth Candler, I'm a renal dietitian in London and looking forward to chatting today.
So today we wanted to tackle something that's been consistently in the group on Facebook, that people seem to be diagnosed with CKD and then it's like, what the hell do I do? And that's when you've just been diagnosed with CKD, which we've seen a lot in the group, people coming into the group saying, I've just been diagnosed with CKD from my doctor, what do I do? Or my husband's been diagnosed, my wife's been diagnosed, my father-in-law, so many people coming in just being diagnosed and left to their own. So really it's a bit of a broad one today, but trying to tackle of what the things you should think about when you've just been diagnosed, because it's very stressful. It must be very stressful. So mainly tips and kind of, clear directions from, trained NHS dietitian that knows exactly what you should do. And you just a bit of advice around that. So hopefully this helps everyone be a bit less stressed. So Ruth, kind of, doing this for such a long time, 20 years, like what do you usually tell a patient when they've come to you and said, I've just been diagnosed, what should I do?
So first of all, my first thought is try not to panic. And although, it's a major organ, a problem with a major organ, I always say don't panic. The second thing to remember is that it usually, in usual circumstances, it's unlikely that you'll be told, oh, you need to start dialysis or you need a transplant straight away. It's not usual for that to happen. It's usually a very gradual decline. And the important thing to remember is that for kidney disease, you need to monitor the kidney function. So I've seen a few people recently, and I've said to them, okay, your kidney function is at 60%, but we need to look at that over the next 2 years, every 3 months or every 6 months, and see how that goes. And I know it's not a good fix right now, and a lot of people said to me, well, that's no good, because I just want to know what to do about it, fix it, and then forget about it. But unfortunately you can't do it like that, and it doesn't work like that. So the first thing to do, not to panic. Second thing to do is, the important thing is to think about lifestyle and to think about why your kidneys might have reduced in function and to monitor it.
I think that's a really good point, because I kind of, with my background story, I got sick when I was like 15 with a bout of vasculitis, and that's probably an acute kidney injury. And then basically over 10 years after that was when it went from bad to worse, and then eventually needing a transplant. But the interesting thing in my journey was that my doctor never really told me to monitor my food. It was more around, I'd get my blood checked every now and then, and they just tell me, this is your situation now, come back in 6 months. So I do think people are left a lot to their own device, because they kind of just, the doctors really care about the blood results and making sure that you're okay. So I think that's a really good tip there around lifestyle, because I couldn't have stopped mine maybe as much as others, because mine came from vasculitis, but you might be behaving in a way where you might have been obese, or it might have come from diabetes, or it might come from high salt intake. So you might have lifestyle things that you can actually change that can slow it down a lot more. And food is obviously a key one there.
Food as such isn't going to damage the kidneys. And even if it's diabetes or high blood pressure, yes, salt can harm it. Yes, the sugar can harm your kidneys, but general eating isn't going to damage kidneys as such. And I think that's quite an important point, because I've had a lot of people say, is this safe? Is this harmful for my kidneys, in terms of asking about food? And that it doesn't work like that. And it's just not, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well, because I really didn't start changing my lifestyle until after my transplant. And it wasn't really till after my transplant, if I'm honest, like within 4 or 5 years of after my transplant, that I really started to change my lifestyle. But once you are diagnosed with CKD, I think that it's kind of getting your head around the fact that this is not going away, because it is not curable.
Mm.
It's not like
Yeah,
you can't go in remission like cancer. You can't uh, cure it like a broken leg. You have it forever. So the earlier you start to change your lifestyle and start to go, okay, I'm going to eat this instead of this. I'm going to exercise a bit more. The more likely you are to slow things down, and the more likely you are to be healthier for longer, basically.
yeah.
And then maybe a flip question on that would be, what should a patient or what should someone not do when they've just been diagnosed with CKD?
I think I think the biggest tempting thing, I think, and from, again, from our group, I've learned so much from this group and looking on and being on Facebook. I think the biggest thing is, don't look for a cure, and don't look for some quick remedy or something made of herbs, or some kind of potion to make it all go away, because it may make it worse.
Mm.
And there's no clinical studies or research to show that any of these things that are available on the market are effective or help you. I think if they were helpful, we'd have been using them years ago, and we wouldn't have, there wouldn't be such a thing as kidney failure, because if your kidneys were in decline, you'd be given whatever the potion is, and then you'd be on your way. So please don't buy them, don't spend your money or time on them.
And I think that's a really good point, because again, in the group, we have a lot of people, loads of people trying to come in and do these spamming things. So just being very careful about reading stuff on the internet, magic potions and voodoos. Read these doctors that say they're doctors, they're probably not doctors, and like fake articles that say don't eat this and don't eat that. But you did mention, it was a really interesting point you said, where there was food, no food will damage your kidneys. Do you want to just kind of open up a bit more about what that means? Because my understanding was that there was food, like if I was to eat a pizza every night, like from Domino's, or if I was to have McDonald's every night, really high salty food, would that not damage my kidney, or am I wrong with that?
it I'm not sure that it would damage it as such, and there isn't any evidence to say that it would, but having a lot of salt might make your blood pressure go up and might make your blood pressure uncontrollable, and that will damage the kidney. So it's not the food itself, it's the food causing the blood pressure, the salt causing the blood pressure to go up, which is damaging the kidney. I feel like we get a lot of people who are saying, oh, I can't eat bananas and I can't eat avocados and I can't eat tomatoes because they're going to damage my kidney. No, they are not. You're right. If you did have McDonald's every day and you had pizza every day, and if you had fatty meat and processed meat every day, possibly. But again, there isn't it. Well, there's no research to show that any particular food causing damage to kidney, but those particular foods are very, very unhealthy, very lots of fats, lots of nitrates, lots of salt, and that is just not good for kidney health as such. But I'm not sure that there is a particular food as such that if you ate a sensible diet, you would damage your kidneys with it.
So in regards to that question, so if I've just been diagnosed and you read the articles saying don't eat this but eat that, don't eat this but eat that, then what would be the purpose of following a good diet if I've just been diagnosed versus what I usually eat, which might be damaging?
So you might slow the progression, mightn't you? And you might slow the progression, and you might kind of make your kidneys a bit healthier. You might increase the function a little bit. I can't say for sure because everyone is so very different. But I think if you ate a lot of processed food, takeaway, and you've been diagnosed, you've got that risk of it declining very quickly because of the salt, because of the nitrates, because of the fat. Whereas if you changed your diet to be healthy, it you might slow that decline or even halt it, or maybe even improve it.
And is that so? So when you read things around, like there's, for example, I know, for example, cauliflower, red bell peppers, garlic, these things that are known to be good for the kidneys, versus things that are bad, like high processed food, like olives. these things are kind of like high in salt. So let's just use a processed meat because it's an obviously bad one, and versus blueberries, say, because I know they're quite good. Is it that what the blueberries are made of are kind of healthy for the kidney versus what the processed food is made of, like the salt and that what differentiates a good food from a bad food for the kidney?
I guess it depends on the composition of food, right? So in terms of fruit and veg, there's nothing in fruit and veg that's going to damage the kidney as such. Okay, the whole potassium story. So it's the kidney can't get rid of the potassium. The potassium isn't damaging the kidney as such. It's just the kidney is at low function, can't get potassium, so it's hanging around the blood, and that can cause problems. It's not damaging the kidney. In blueberries, as it happens, it's quite known to be a high antioxidant food. So it's got chemicals in it that can neutralize chemicals that are bad, if you like, in the body. So it's good for overall health. But I wouldn't say, if you've got kidney failure, you need to have blueberries or you need to have anything in particular. Whereas I would say if you've got kidney failure, and actually I would say to anybody who came along to see me, not to eat processed meat anyway, because of the high fat content, because of the high salt content. And anyway, a healthy person shouldn't eat so much salt either, because then you're risking them getting a high blood pressure, which can cause kidney damage that they won't even know about. So it's difficult to explain, but there aren't any foods that are particularly good for the kidney, that's for sure. It's about a balance of good health and healthy eating. But things like processed meat, very high salt and salty foods are not good for the kidney because they raise the blood pressure, and that can make the kidneys worse.
And that's the thing is like we get a lot of people coming into the group saying, can I eat this and can I eat that and can I eat this? And you can generally eat anything as long as it's part of a balanced diet. The only time
Absolutely.
you need to start worrying is when your bloods start to go, averaged over here, your potassium's rising quite a lot, and that's dangerous. So just limit the amount of potassium you're eating. And that's
Exactly.
usually only when the doctor will tell you or a dietitian will tell you. And usually that's, again, a very end stage or dialysis. Kind of being a transplant patient, I'm relatively normal, but just I try and reduce salt as much as possible because I know that has a chance of increasing the blood pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all the thing with potassium is why it's so massive is that a high potassium, you're at risk of having a cardiac arrest. And that's why it's so massive. Okay, no one talks about phosphate particularly, but a high phosphate, it's not a medical emergency like potassium, but it can cause your bones to crumble in the long term. And we do look at it and we do monitor it, and usually it's not a problem until the very, very end stage and very nearing dialysis or on dialysis. But it's really, really, I can't overemphasize this enough. There is no such thing as foods that are good for the kidney or help the kidney, or it's part of a healthy, balanced diet.
Yeah, but there is that element if you incorporate those foods, like you mentioned, that do have high antioxidants and those kind of those are classic foods like red bell peppers is another one. It's the more you incorporate those healthier things into the diet, the better off your kidney's going to be because it's just and that so
For good health.
yeah, for good health overall, lower blood pressure, like a better balanced weight, all those things. Um,
Exactly.
and then so probably another thing that people will classically do regardless, it's almost like when you get told not to look at the sun when it's a full, and you can't help but look at it. But in regards to the internet, like is there trusted places that you should go to and places that you should ignore if you're tempted to go to Dr. Google?
So again, I would go to government places in your country or the National Kidney Foundation in your country. I've put up a lot of links for the American National Kidney Foundation and the UK National Kidney Foundation. There's also Kidney Care UK, which is 100% reliable. There's Kidney Research UK, which is 100% reliable. in America, there's Davita, which is reliable, National Kidney Foundation, which is reliable. I think it might be hard for people to know what's reliable or not, and I'm not sure. What I can do is I can maybe put a link to how to know something's reliable. It's quite hard to know unless it's .org. If it's .org, then it is usually reliable, or if it's .gov, then it's reliable. The other thing is in the bottom right hand corner, there is a little symbol to look for, which is the HON code, which is a blue code, and that's it. It's an international code, and that shows that the website is a reliable website, and it operates at a sort of by people who are probably qualified to comment or write articles. I would have thought that any dietitian websites are okay, because again, dietitians will work to a code of conduct and wouldn't put unreliable information on their website. Certainly in the UK, I can't vouch for the USA or any other country, but I know certainly in the UK we wouldn't, because it's not worth it. And in the UK, the NHS website has got lots of information about kidney disease, and that is 100% reliable as well.
Yeah, and I suppose like kind of explore and start reading, and I think that once you come to conclusions, just cross-checking them with a professional as a dietitian and nephrologist is quite good, because it is a lot to take in as well. You start reading about it, and then you're like, well, hang on a sec, what's this now? And I think one big conundrum I came up against was, it seemed after reading it that I couldn't actually eat anything, because it was like, this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad. And you start to end up in a panic. So I think that checking with your nephrologist, which for people that are newly diagnosed is a kidney doctor, or with your GP, if you're still seeing a GP, is probably a way to check, or a dietitian is probably the best bet, because a lot of doctors don't know too much about the field, and I've experienced in the past, they don't give you much advice besides don't eat bad foods. So that's not very helpful as well. But yeah, so on that kind of separate topic of kind of, a lot of people come into the group because they're taking care of someone. So because the person might be old, or they don't like to cook, or something around, you're worried about their health. Do you see anyone that actually takes care of other people, or do you have advice for those people that are worried about those people that have just been diagnosed, that they know?
So actually, recently I've seen a lot of kids and their parents, or just the kids, have been contacting me, like the majority of people who I've been seeing in the private sector recently. So it's often a daughter, a son, a sister contacting me, because the other person might be older, so therefore not so online savvy, or not knowing how to find somebody, and they found me. So yes, very much so. And also they just want to make sure that they find the right person to guide their loved one. Like, I know that if my mum needed someone, I would look for her, I would want to look for her, because I'll know what to look for, and I will say, right, mum, this is the person you need to see, and I'll set that up for you. And I've seen a lot of that lately. I think it's quite interesting, and I find it's usually younger people who contact me themselves, although I've had a few older people also contact me independently. So it's a bit of a mixture. I've also had recently people, children who live in the UK, and the parents might live in, let's say, India or somewhere else, another country, and they contacted me to meet with them, or meet, as with them in the UK and their family in India, or wherever they are in the world, and we have a three-way conversation. So I've had that a lot as well. So yes, I do.
That's really interesting. I think that there is not one size fits all for this, because it's like that. I think that's another thing that I've learned along this journey, is my journey is going to be different to every single other person with CKD. So that comes from even from the like types of food you like to eat and how you can adapt your diet to something that fits it a bit better. So I think that knowing that even if you read stuff on the internet, it might not even apply to you in the fact of your condition, how you got there, how you need to change. So really speaking to a dietitian professional like Ruth would be the ideal scenario that you can get to figure out what you need to do. Um, and I think that's another one, is not to panic and speak to a professional. Um,
When you're diagnosed, please say to the doctor, okay, so you're saying I've got kidney problems. I would like to know more about my blood results. I'd like to know, why do you think I have a kidney problem? So try not to be too shy or nervous, because I know that, there's a lot of white coat syndrome and we get really nervous when we see a doctor. But if you know you're going to see a doctor, write down some questions for them and ask them some questions, or talk to a relative or friend about what you might want to ask the doctor when you're going to see them, so that it's the most productive meeting that you can have. And also think about why your kidneys failing, and what can you do to help them. Now, I know that the doctors, none of them talk about nutrition, because, to be honest, none of them know any nutrition, and that's not great, but that's why there's dietitians as well. But then dietitians are not as accessible as we would like to be. So I think that it's just kind of, have a good look at look at the kidney associations around, but don't look at one place of sources. Look for the same thing in a number of places and see that it's saying the same thing, or maybe something different in a different way, but it often says a very similar thing. And I think also just make sure that you're very clear with the doctor about what's going to happen going forward. And are they going to measure your bloods again in 3 months or 6 months, or do they want to see you again? On what can you do to improve your health? Like, be strict with them about it, because they're not going to say anything to you. I'll just say, oh, your kidney function is 40%. Oh, I'll come back in 3 months and we'll see what it's like. And it's not really good enough. So make sure that you ask them, okay, doctor, this is the situation. What can I do to make that better? When are you going to see me again? When are you going to do my bloods again? What are you looking for? And I want to know why this is happening.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point, because it took me quite a while to understand the terms, because, and I think we'll do a whole separate podcast on bloods, because I think that that is very complicated. I think it's in very doctor speak and not patient speak, when, even when I remember as my kidneys were failing, it was like, oh, your kidneys are at this percentage now. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't understand. And kind of, I never really understood many, many years to really wrap my head around everything. And uh, uh, prodding, we get a lot of people in the group sharing their blood results because they have no idea with what that means. And because it is just a bunch of random numbers to a patient. So I think that, again, to Ruth's point, when you get diagnosed with that, ask them, what does that mean? Which area is telling me that? Is it my creatinine, which is your kidney function, or is it my GFR, which is the percentage of your kidney? Again, they're just random letters and words, but just getting your head around what that means from like a regular language point, and then to Ruth's point, keeping an eye on that, making sure you get your blood tests checked every at least 6 months once you've been diagnosed, because then that is the only way you can really check if it's saying stable is your blood results. It's the only barometer you've got. So we'll do a whole separate podcast, I think, on bloods, because it is very complicated. But yeah, I think that we'll be, by the time this podcast comes out, hopefully our new Kidney Ally website will be very close to be launching as well. And the purpose of our website, again, is to help every kidney patient with what they need to cook, with recipes, with education tailored completely to their condition, and the ability to connect with Ruth and other dietitians for appointments. So hopefully that comes up, will be coming out very, very soon by the time this comes out, or it might already be up. But you can go to the website now, kidneyally.com, to sign up to see the website for the first time if you'd like. And in the meantime, you can also join our Facebook group, which again is growing like crazy. It's kidney disease, diet and recipe ideas. You'll see an amazing picture of a nice salmon in the middle, but very friendly. Me and Ruth are in the group answering questions, and everyone in the group is super supportive. So feel free to join, tell other kidney patients, and feel free to also listen to previous video podcasts on Spotify under Kidney Ally, or also YouTube and Facebook as well. So we're on all those places and you can check it out. And looking forward to the next podcast. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.